All right, let's dive into what's happening in Punjab. We're talking farmer protests, round two, and it seems like a lot has changed since the big ones back in 2020, 2021.
Yeah. It's really interesting how this is playing out. It's not just a repeat. There are new layers, new players.
Right, it's not a simple sequel. It's a whole new chapter, really.
Definitely. This time, I think we're seeing something deeper, hitting at the heart of how Indian agriculture works.
Yeah. So to kick things off, we've got two groups, Kisan Mazdoor Morcha, KMM, and then there's the Samyukta Kisan Morcha, non-political, we'll just call them SKM, NP. They've called for this nationwide strike, a Bharat Bandh, on December 29th. But in 2020, remember, that was about those farm laws, and there was this huge sense of unity.
Yeah, farmers all across India, everyone was on the same page. It was powerful.
Totally. But now it seems like there's some cracks in that solidarity, even within Punjab itself. Not everyone's backing this strike.
Right, and it's not just random folks either. You've got the Punjab Pradesh Beopar Mandal. They're traders and shopkeepers, and they're actually against this ban.
And that's what I find wild. They were huge EE supporters back in 2020, visiting the protests at the Delhi borders, the whole thing.
It really shows you how things have shifted. Now they're saying, okay, we respect farmers, we respect soldiers, but this Bharat Bandh, this is different. They see it as political opportunists using the farmer's name.
It's almost like they think it's hurting Punjab more than it's actually pressuring the central government, which is interesting.
That's their argument. And, it might make you wonder, have the farmers lost some of that widespread support they had before?
Yeah, like did they use it all up in the last round, maybe?
Well, it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Those 2020 protests, they were huge EE, intense, but the main outcome was those 3 laws getting repealed. For some, that might feel like not enough.
Like they won the battle, but not the war kind of thing?
Exactly. And that feeling that maybe they overestimated what protests alone could achieve, it could be feeding into the hesitation we're seeing now. Like, were there deeper problems that those laws were just a symptom of?
Okay, so there's that division, maybe less public backing this time. What else is different now compared to 2020?
Well, the big demand this time is a guaranteed minimum support price, MSP. It's not about specific laws, but about how India supports its farmers, like fundamentally.
Right, and another thing the article pointed out, 2020, that was nationwide. This time, it seems very Punjab-focused.
Very true. Back then, farmers were blocking highways into Delhi. The whole country felt it. Now, it's mostly disruptions within Punjab. So it raises the question, how much pressure can they really put on the central government if it's just one state?
Someone in the article even said, and I quote, "If everything's happening in Punjab, how is this a movement for the entire nation?" Makes you think.
It does. It's a challenge for any movement trying to change national policy. How do you make your point without hurting your own region too much? It's a tough balance.
And the Punjab government, they're definitely using that angle. They're saying, look, we already procure 24 crops at MSP. We're doing our part. But the farmers are saying that's not enough. It needs to be nationwide.
That's the core of the debate, right?
Yeah.
Is a nationwide MSP for every crop even possible? How would that work economically, logistically? These are huge questions.
So it's not as simple as we demand MSP, government gives it. There's more to it.
Way more. It's economics, logistics, all these factors tied in. And to even have a good discussion about solutions, everyone needs to understand how complex it really is.
And just to add another layer of crazy to this whole thing, we've got the cops stepping in now.
Ah, yes, the cops. They're these social councils, mostly in Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. They're not farmers themselves, so they have a lot of social influence, so their opinion matters.
And they are not holding back. Basically, they've said to the farmer groups, get your act together or we're out. They seem especially worried about Jagjit Singh Dalawal, the protest leader who's on a hunger strike.
Yeah, the caps, they're seeing the lack of progress, all the division, and they're getting impatient. It's like they're saying, we're watching, but you need to show us this is going somewhere or you lose our support.
And you have to think, Dalawal, he's on this hunger strike, trying to unify a fractured movement, all that pressure.
Absolutely. And now the caps add this whole other level of uncertainty. They have power. If they really get behind this, things could escalate fast.
So let's take stock. We've got this movement pushing for national change, but mostly happening in Punjab. The farmer groups themselves aren't all on the same page about what to do.
And then you have the caps, big social force watching from the sidelines, ready to jump in and maybe change the whole game. It's a very volatile situation, lots of moving parts. It's a real reminder of how complicated these things get in India. You've got politics, economics, social structures. It all mixes together, especially with agriculture.
And we can't forget, elections are coming up. That's got to be adding to the pressure cooker, right?
Oh, absolutely. Every politician's watching this closely, trying to figure out what people are thinking, how to position themselves, maybe even how to use this whole thing to get votes.
Right. It's prime political fodder.
Speaking of the bigger picture, the article did mention that even though the SKM, the big group from the 2020 protests, they're not directly at these Haryana border protests.
Right. But they have V come out saying they support the cause. Yeah.
And they've called for a Kisan Mahapanchayat on January 4th, which is basically a huge gathering of farmers. It's going to be in the town of Tohana.
Interesting timing because the KMM and the SKM and P, the ones doing this Bharat Bandh, they also called for a Mahapanchayat on that same day at Kanari, where Dhaliwal is on hunger strike.
So it's almost like competing rallies. Like they're both trying to be the real voice of the farmers.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that going on. It's about leadership, influence, whoever gets more people to their event, it shows they have support.
And then we've got the cops off to the side, just watching this all go down, like they're holding all the cards. Their committee, 11 members, they said they're willing to mediate, but only if the farmer groups want it. So they could calm things down, or they could make them even more intense. It's unpredictable.
Okay, so much to unpack here, but let's zoom out for a sec. What are we actually looking at? What are the ways this whole thing could go?
Well, one way, best case scenario, maybe this Bharat Bandh really works. It causes enough disruption, people get on board, the government has to negotiate, they make some concessions on MSP.
But what if it doesn't work? What if it's a flop, not many people join, and the impact is minimal?
That's the other side of the coin. The strike fails, it could actually make the farmers weaker, like they used their big move and it didn't land.
And we have to consider this could get worse too, right? Protests escalate, things get out of control, there are clashes with the police.
Definitely a possibility. It's a tense situation, one wrong move, and it could turn violent.
And then, like we said, there's the election looming over everything. This could become a major campaign issue. Every party trying to win over the farmers.
Oh, for sure. The political impact is huge. How this all plays out, it could shift votes, change policies for years to come.
So we're not just talking about one protest, it's bigger than that. This is about how India feeds itself, the lives of millions of farmers.
You got it. It brings up those fundamental questions. How does agriculture work in India? How are markets run? How are farmers supported? This could change a lot of things.
So with all that in mind, what are you going to be watching for as this unfolds? Like, what are the key things to pay attention to?
For me, it's the participation in this Bharat Bandh. If tons of people join, it shows they have real support. Then, those Mahapanchayats on January 4th, that's going to be interesting. Can they bring the different groups together? And what are the cops going to do? Those are the things that'll tell us where this is all headed.
Sounds like it's going to be a wild ride these next few weeks. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
I think it's really important to remember there are good points on all sides here. The farmers have valid reasons to protest, but there are also real challenges, economic and logistical stuff. Finding a solution is going to take people talking to each other, being willing to compromise, actually trying to understand the other side.
Well said. I think that's a great point to leave it on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. Hopefully everyone listening has a better grasp now on how complex these protests are and all the different things at play. Yeah, it's a reminder that sometimes the easy answers aren't the right ones, you know? It's like these things force us to really think, to dig deeper.
Exactly. And I think it's important to remember, this isn't something we just sit back and watch. We're all part of this, shaping the future in a way.
That's a good point. And it makes me think, even though this is all happening in Punjab, the impact, it goes way beyond that, right?
For sure. Think about it. India's agricultural policies, that affects how they feed their people, but it also impacts global markets, trade, everything.
It's like this isn't just some protest happening over there. This is about the food we eat, the prices we pay, how stable the world is.
It really is. It makes you ask those big questions like, what kind of food system do we want? How do we support farmers but also keep things economically viable? How do we make sure everyone has enough to eat, but it's done fairly?
It's wild how something happening in one place can have these ripple effects all over the world. It's a reminder that we got to stay informed, we got to talk about these things, we got to speak up for what we believe in.
We really are all connected. And every choice we make, even the small ones, they add up. They contribute to making the world better or worse.
So big picture stuff here. We started with these protests, figuring out what they're about, then we got into the caps, and now we're talking elections, global impact.
It's been quite a journey, yeah. And I think the big takeaway is this story's not finished. There's no ending yet. It's all these different people, different goals, and no easy solutions.
But that's what makes it so interesting to follow, right? We're watching history happen right now, trying to figure out these tough questions, and hopefully by the end, we understand the world a little bit better.
That's it. And you know what they say? The best deep dives leave you with more questions than answers. They make you want to keep learning, keep digging.
That's the whole point. So everyone listening, as this whole farmer protest thing keeps going, stay curious, stay informed, stay involved. We'll be back with another deep dive soon, exploring something new. But for now, keep thinking, keep asking those questions.
Yeah, keep digging deeper, never stop exploring.
And that's a wrap for the deep dive. Thanks for joining us.